Welcome back. All right. Today, I'm talking to you about Black capitalism. Black capitalism. I guess you could say it's kind of like a juxtaposition in people's minds. How does Black and capitalism go together? Now, there's two big political or economic, we're going to call them economic ideologies that have always been in conflict, at least for the last couple centuries. Capitalism versus socialism. Everybody went, no, you can't be a socialist. Oh, you gotta be a capitalist. No, fuck capitalist. You gotta be a socialist. Big fucking debate, all right? And today, I'm putting forth the argument of why being a Black socialist or communist or Marxist is probably the stupidest shit I've ever heard of in my fucking life. And the only reason that I can say this with confidence and conviction is because I used to be a communist slash socialist. Very strong, very strong. I really looked up to Karl Marx in my college days. Now, there's a few reasons that I want to get into. But first, we're going to put forth a scenario. All right. Let's say, okay, Black America gets all of its demands met. Reparations, we get land, right? The government, the US government comes in and says, all right, you know what? You guys have been a pain in our ass for fucking 400 years. Take this piece of land and fuck off. They give us the state of New Mexico, whatever fucking state, right? They give us this piece of land. They say fuck off. Do whatever the fuck you want. But we're not gonna help you. All right. So now we have this piece of land. No resources, no structure, no organization, no order, people in the state. There's so many fucking problems that you have to work through in order to create a functioning society that is healthy and conducive to growth. First, you got to figure out the currency, right? What makes a strong currency? What makes a weak currency? How do you protect that currency? Because now we have this state, right? Plus, there's competition. But it's not just competition with the US. It's competition with the entire fucking world. Russia, Germany, Europe, China, India, Mexico, Canada. You are at competition. We are at competition with the entire fucking world for the proliferation and the betterment of our people in this state, right? All right. Say we figure out the resources, okay? We get the money. How do you protect the money? How do you protect the resources? You need a strong fucking military. You need someone to enforce the boundaries, because if you have resources, you have nice things that people want, well, people are gonna fucking try and take those things from you. So how do you enforce that? You need borders. You need people who are going to protect that border. Socialists and the communists think that you can tax things, tax services from the private markets, from state citizens. That only pulls money out of the actual and the real economy. So, for example, let's say a state. First of all, they don't know how to balance their fucking budgets or whatever, right? They say, oh, let's tax the rich, let's tax the rich, tax the rich. The thing is, when you do that, only the rich people have the means to not be in that fucking state. So what do? They leave. They fucking leave. And who gets stuck paying that debt? It's the average people. It's the fucking average people. So in this case, a lot of black states, a lot of states with a high black population or Democratic voters, etc., right? And they say, oh, we're homelessness, all these things. We need more funding and budget and all this shit. We need to get more income from the state. We need to tax more people. We need to get all these things. Except all the people who collect the taxes, where they get the taxes from, they leave and they go to other states that are not fucking them. Rightfully so. Rightfully so. Because you have to understand this. It's a lot easier for people to say they're going to do something than it is for them to actually do it. And the reason I'm saying this is this, and this changed my perspective. A while ago, I'd started up an initiative to go to Haiti, do some work there, etc., right? It took a lot of fucking research, it took a lot of work and everything like that. And when I came back, there were people arguing with me about what these people need, what these people think, what they people need, etc. And at that time, I was like a vegan. I was like big on climate change and all these things. I was big on. I'm not gonna say that word because I don't want to get banned. But I was big on all these things, plastics, all these things, right? But when I went there, I saw the value of plastics in those communities because those communities, plastic helps preserve food, water, things that they need. And they use plastic in a lot of ways that really made me think about this sort of privilege of not being, of not wanting to use plastic. So anyways, when I came back to the States, people were like, oh, this is what they need, this is what they need. I'm like, okay, well, instead of talking about it, why don't you set up something and do it? It's too much work. It's too much fucking work. Anyways, back to the point. Rich people leave. They put in the work, they got their money, they did what they needed to do, so they leave when people come unnecessarily trying to take it from them. So they leave. So the average person is stuck with these debts from a government which doesn't know how to balance its own budget and spends money recklessly on initiatives that don't need it, don't do anything, right? And so they pull money out of the pocket of the average person. Now this negatively affects minorities, people of color, people who don't make a lot of money to begin with. So when we look at the national average of income for Black Americans and other populations, Black Americans have the lowest average yearly income at 35K. Now, who knows better what the people need? The people themselves who live their situations every day and have their problems every day, or people who are sitting in some obscure office far, far away who think they know what the problem is. Who is actually better equipped to understand the problem and the realities that those problems present? It's the people who are actually living it. So why would you take resources away and capital away from the people who need it most to deal with their problems? So that these people up here can create some fuckhead solution about what they think the people down over here need. It doesn't make any sense. So I'm gonna give you an example like education, right? Education. People like when you say, oh, we need education, we need education. Oh, education needs to be this. People are not being taught the right things. One, it doesn't help if you're teaching nonsense information in these schools, which we know the intent of the public education system is not to create a system of thinkers. I'm not going to get into that. When you look at other communities who have private educations and private institutions, where do they get this funding to create private institutions? They get it from capital rich people, people who have money and wealth and are able to reinvest that wealth into the education of future generations. Which then makes those future generations more capable of accumulating wealth and keeping the cycle going. So you take out the wealth accumulators in a community with tax, so they leave. Who is going to be there to fund the education? The state. And what are they going to teach in these institutions, in state institutions? Fucking nonsense. That's what they're going to fucking teach. So when we talk about capitalism and socialism, it's important to keep the capital flowing in our communities, to keep the free markets open. And if you actually read, if you actually take the time to read those different philosophies, read Marx, read Saul, read Alexis de Tocqueville, read Herbert Spencer, read Emile Durkheim, read Immanuel Kant, read Adam Smith, read Thomas Jefferson. And you start getting these ideas, you get these ideas down. The whole point of a construct like socialism or communism or Marxism is to eliminate competition. All right. Small cap, medium cap, large cap. It basically is to stop and subdue the little guy from potentially becoming the big guy. That's what it means when you say stop competition. except for where communities need to become big guys, aka minority communities. We need that competition open. We don't need people coming in, closing gates, saying, oh, no, you can't do this, you can't do this, which is what socialism, communism is. The socialists and the communists take this idea of corporatism, where big corporations and institutions work with the state to eliminate competition, to eliminate the bottom tier. And you see it now. You see the middle class is being flushed out. You see the lower class is getting pushed down lower. And you see the upper class getting higher and higher. That gap is increasing because the cycle of rotation of small and big is being prolongated. Meaning the big guy staying the big guy for longer than the little guy has the time to evolve into the big guy. Now, a lot of this also comes, I think, from a deeper spiritual decay that's going on in the West and short-sighted interests and greed through mergers and acquisitions. We see a lot less of ambition to grow to become the big guy. And we see a lot more ambitions to be acquired by the big guy. Short-term ambition to cash out a check, short-term ambition to get this, to get this. So you got all the big guys buying up all the little guys, which is how they're eliminating the competition. They're not saying, oh, you can't do this. They're saying, oh, give it to me, I'll take care of it, right? The big tech guys, the big industry guys, the big banks, the big hedge funds, the big private equity funds, the big private equity funds. They're buying up all the other shit, which is how they're eliminating competition, creating monopolies and all these things. And that's not capitalism. So for us, for Black Americans, etc., we need those gates open. We need to be able to create capital in order to reinvest back into the communities. Otherwise, there's no investment. There's no development from our own hands for people who live and have dealt with those situations firsthand. The problem is that also a lot of Black Americans want the state to do something. But that's not the role or the responsibility of the state. The state can't put the interests of one people ahead of everyone else's in a melting pot nation like the US that has a super diverse, non-homogenic group of people. And that's not the role. You can't prioritize people over certain people unless you're coming with some dough. So they're not going to fucking do it. They're not going to prioritize our interests. It's fucking idealistic to think that they're going to do that without any type of incentive. And at the same time, you want to close the gates on the people who are trying to proliferate and expand and get the capital and get the accumulation. It makes no fucking sense. Yeah.